Hello, friends. It's Shanika and Caitlin from Get Checkered. Get Checkered is part of the Alberta podcast, locally grown and community supported. How are you? I was just telling Caitlin, her hair looks absolutely amazing. It looks so good. So if you're not watching us on YouTube, you should, because her hair looks great.
I think it's the only time it's been down in
Probably
how many podcasts?
Probably a while.
And like probably a bit done. I was at the bar watching the race, so I looked more put together than normal. Went to Brew Hall here in Vancouver. It's a nice place to be. Lots of kids. And the funniest thing happened, Shanika. I'm not joking. We're just about to leave. We've just paid. And the three of us are talking, and Brittany just turns to us and she's like, "Did you see that?" And we're like, "What?" She's like, "This kid just came up to me and kicked me." We were talking about his grilled cheese earlier, so I guess he heard it. He wasn't happy. I guess came up and just kicked Brittany. Hilarious.
That's not fun or nice.
We were just like, what? And then we left, and the kid and his dad left like right after us. We're like, he's following you, Brittany. But yeah, that's my one experience at Brew Hall now. So that's what I will remember it for. They were really nice. So they brought us a little speaker to the table to listen to the game, to the race. I mean, there was a game going on, but we had just a little portable JBL stereo, those popular ones.
Okay.
It worked like a charm.
You mentioned though you didn't go to soccer this week. What?
Oh yeah, we didn't have practice today because we are playing on a team of a bunch of older people, and so we're all injured.
You're all injured? Jesus,
pretty much. We needed a week off, is what was determined. It's fine. We have a game Wednesday. Hey, we won our first game on Wednesday.
Congratulations.
Thank you. It was 9-8.
Seems very much like our Stanley Cup situation with the playoffs.
But it's a win. It counts as a win.
It's a win. It's still a win. It's still a win. Who do you play next?
I don't know, but we're literally in the lowest league at UBC. I'm not kidding. And everyone's still too good. And I'm like, this is too much pressure. I cannot handle this right now. So yeah, everyone playing summer league here is just very good. It's fine.
I'm like, I would not love that.
Make me young again. It's like that, like the Mean Girls mom being like, "Oh, you kids make me young again."
Seriously.
Yeah. That's honestly the extent about my week. Lots of school, but Shanika, you had an interview, and I'm very interested to hear about it.
Yeah. So if you didn't know, which I don't know how, because I've been talking about it like mad, but on Thursday, I think it was, because we had that all staff meeting. Yeah. On Thursday, we got an email from CBC, and they were like, "Hey, can we interview y'all for just talk about Formula One?" And I was like, jumped at the chance. So took it during work hours. It's fine. Did the interview, and it was super cool, but I didn't know what the story was going to be. So I'll make sure to link it in the description if you want to read. I think it was done really well. And my coworkers actually said it was on the front page. If you went to cbc.ca, it was on the front page there. Courtney, as you all know, is in Montreal right now, watch the race. Sorry. Had a great time. She said my clip was played on TV as well. So I don't know if you were here in Canada, maybe you saw it.
Very exciting.
It's very exciting for us because I'm like, this is so good for a little podcast. We love some search engine optimization and the backlink. We'll take it. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Get our names out there.
Exactly. What else did I do? On Friday, I actually was at a roundtable with our political opposition here. So the New Democrats, Rachel Notley was there, Janice Irwin, and Reiki, and we just talked about they had 3 policies that they're thinking about, and it was just a bunch of other female entrepreneurs, but also not just female entrepreneurs, people from energy and stuff like that. And we just gave them feedback on their potential policy ideas, which was really, really cool to be in that room. So very, very brilliant women. And yeah, it was very cool. So we'll see what happens, but it was so cool. But that was my Friday. That was just Friday alone. Who would have thought?
Oh, impressive.
I know. Can't complain. But other than that, very similar to you. I didn't have a lot of work because I took Monday and Tuesday off, but it still felt like a very long week.
Well, you know what? Bad news is about to start up right again.
I know. I'm trying to figure out, like, right now I'm trying to figure out. So my office is hybrid and I'm trying to figure out what days I can not go into the office for. And because I try to only go like once or twice a week, but there are certain meetings that are in person this week that I'm like, oh, shit. And for those who don't know, parking in downtown Calgary is so expensive. And I do pay for a parking pass, but I pay for like a part-time one. So I get 10 days. And yeah, I'm pretty sure I'm going to be up my 10 days before the end of this week, which is not great.
Yeah, I heard like it might have been a few years ago, but it's probably still very likely. Calgary was like the second most expensive place to park.
Yeah.
In North America. We were behind like LA or something.
It's so expensive, people. It's so
ridiculous. I feel for you.
Yeah, it's very expensive. I just don't even want to look at the receipts, but it's okay. I'll figure that out later.
Yikes. Part of, I guess, interviews, this came to my head. Yeah. Something came up this week from Sebastian Vettel.
I was actually going to figure out like how would we address this, because as you know, Caitlin and I born and raised in Alberta. Okay, born and raised in Alberta, definitely have some gripes about some things, but it's also he pissed a lot of Albertans off with that. It was so funny. Caitlin, did you see how he was like clipped in the like in mainstream news? So not just.
No, I only saw it on social. I don't watch real news anymore.
It's okay. No, it's just so funny because no one called. What I thought was so funny, all the headlines didn't call him by his name here in Canada. They kept saying F1 driver.
Really?
Says that whatever are crimes or something's a crime in Alberta. And I was just like, he has a name.
Yeah, like it's a bunch of yikes, you guys. If you haven't heard about it, you probably have if it's in mainstream news. But yeah. A clip from Global Edmonton saying exactly what Shanika was saying is they titled it, "The F1 driver shared his opinion of the oil sands ahead of this race on Canadian soil. Quote unquote, what happens in Alberta is a crime because you chop down a lot of trees and you basically destroy the place just to extract oil." Mm-hmm. That's the yikes. To be honest. Like I still love Seb and I do think his heart's in the right place and he fights for good stuff. Do I agree with oil sands? Not particularly, but they're there and we are going to try and change them. I mean, that's the fact of the matter is they are there. What can we do about it now? So I want to have an opportunity to talk to Seb about this. I really don't think he probably has heard like some facts, right? Mm-hmm. And the facts can definitely be misconstrued one way or another. They're definitely not looking good for oil sands. So he probably heard a few things and he's made his own judgment about it. But the whole thing about why it's so big a diss kind of to Alberta is because there's been so much effort over the past few years to make this like an and conversation. And that's a huge thing. Whereas like the environmentalists and the oil and gas community have to work together to start changing the climate attitude in Alberta. Like you can't be pointing fingers. And that's what Seb did. And that's why it's upsetting so many people right now.
And very like particular though, like it's upsetting a lot of Albertans.
It is. And it's upsetting a lot of people that are very smart people and aren't monsters. They're not oil gremlins. Yes, there's probably some of them sprinkled in there. You can identify them in a group, in a room. You can. I'm just telling you, you know who they are. Mm-hmm. But there's a lot of people that aren't like that. And I don't know. It just, it's not good. So I would love an opportunity to talk to Seb and kind of talk to him about what's going on. And yeah, it's not good, but it's also not as black and white maybe as maybe he thinks it is.
No, I agree with you on that. Just because I would say my opinion changed a lot once I started working in tech and with startups, because there is this sort of shift to just try and change the industries here. So I think from a narrative perspective, it's like not great because everyone's working really hard to just change that story. But I just thought it was so funny how up in arms a lot of
Yeah, it's
a lot of people in Alberta got.
So many people's livelihood. Like you have to remember, like people really depend on this industry a lot. Alberta's definitely not diversified. We know this.
No.
So many people depend on oil and gas for their livelihoods, and I think that's why a lot of people are getting up in arms too.
It's really personal to them, and I think that's why it's like as reactionary that you've probably all seen on Twitter. If you are, because we know that 33% of our audience is in Canada. We also know 33% in the States. So if you've seen the headlines, you're probably like, what the hell is wrong with this province? It's because a lot of people rely on it. And also our province has just like really suffered, I would say, over the last few years with everything. So I think people just take this shit really personally and very personally. In fact, in our own circles, took it very personally, where Caitlin and I were like, I think, yeah, it's a thing that people are very upset about. And I don't know, hopefully, like Caitlin said, it's an and conversation, and it has to be, especially in our province. That's the only way that any of us are going to be able to move forward.
No, exactly. So I don't know. Let's talk with Seb about this. We won't change his mind. It's still not a good thing. Like we know that people in industry know this, but like, let's have the conversation about like, okay, thank you for pointing the finger. We don't need that. So what can we do about it?
Yeah.
That's what we need to talk about. Anyway, so yeah, that's the Seb incident.
I think, Caitlin, you did such a great job of navigating that, because I was like, I don't know how we talk about it.
Thank you.
I'm impressed.
Wait, what else happened this week?
I didn't see too much, to be honest. Like it was very much, these folks are obviously, we got the news that Charles was going to get hit with some grid penalties because of the upgrades to the car. So we knew with him coming into this race that he'd be starting a lot farther back than he wanted. But other than that, I think the standout moment was Sebastian, and Caitlin has her eyebrows sky high. What do you?
Yeah, because I heard it might be official. This might be rumor mill. Pierre Gasly got extended.
Right. 2023.
Yeah.
Also part of the rumor mill is that maybe Oscar Piastri
Williams.
Yeah.
Are we calling that since like how many episodes ago? Because we're like, they're not happy with Latifi. Yes, that's still on the rumor mill. Yes, it is.
Still on the rumor mill, but seemed to like pop up a bit more in the last week.
Yeah, I heard because like we know Oscar's tied with the Alpine family, and Otmar, can't pronounce his last name, is the team principal of Alpine right now, and he said he's like, he's kind of alluded to like definitely seeing Oscar on the grid next year.
Yeah, exactly that. So it's not very much is that still a rumor if he kind of says that? I don't know. I guess we just don't know what team, but he did say he would end up on the grid, and that's the piece that we just don't know.
So that's exciting.
We'll see what happens there.
I mean, it's literally, I heard people were saying like, oh, Latifi will get dropped after the Canadian GP. I'm like, ooh. So the timing would line up if this is the case. And it's just like, ouch.
I would really hope. I mean, I don't know, because like Williams really needs to do what they can to get some points. So we do know that you have to have the junior drivers. Is it they have to drive in free practice, or is it qualifying? I can't remember. But basically, it's a requirement that these junior drivers need to drive not in an actual race, but in free practice or qualifying. So maybe we'll see Oscar out there, and maybe he'll put in an impressive lap and have some eyes that just are like, are we ending contracts early? I don't know. These are options.
Interesting.
Oh, I also want to give a recommendation. So I listened to Danny Rick's interview on Armchair Expert, Dax Shepard's podcast series, and it was actually quite good, which surprising. I personally was very surprised, but it was quite good. So if you are looking for something to listen to after you listen to this episode, go listen to that interview. He talks about the things that he likes and all that kind of stuff. So I thought it was pretty good.
Oh, fun. Okay. Very good. Okay, we're gonna keep going. We're gonna keep the episode going. We'll get into an ad break and then we'll go into our track facts. You guys, we haven't done one because Canadian GP hasn't been around since we've been doing this podcast. So
Exactly.
we'll do some track facts and then we will get into quali and the race itself. First, quick little ad break. This episode of Get Checkered is brought to you by Alberta Blue Cross. Even if you're a busy business owner with many meetings, well, with more meetings than hours in a day, you're calm and collected when your group benefit plan is taken care of by Alberta Blue Cross. Your employees can manage their own health, dental, life, and disability coverage online at any time or on any device. So it makes it easier for them and for you. To learn more and explore your options, head to ab.bluecross.ca.
Amazing. And of course, like Caitlin said, we haven't been like at the Canadian Grand Prix since 2019. And I will say everyone I know is at the race. It feels like everyone I know is at the race or was at the race this weekend. So we got to see some photos of the track. But Caitlin, what'd you learn?
Yes. So welcome back since 2019. So Shanka said earlier, Courtney she's still in Montreal. She was there and she's just sending us pictures. She sent us one with like Carlos signs in the background. It's like, is he as beautiful in real life? And she's like, even more.
He was so backlit in the photo that she sent us. I wonder if maybe we'll use her photos on our on Instagram this week. But he looked so backlit that he looked like he was a cutout, and his hair. He's got fabulous hair. He looks stunning, babes.
Even after the race today, like everyone I was at the bar with is watching this guy and he like takes off his hat and his hair's perfect. And they're like, how? And I'm like, I don't know.
None of us know.
But yeah, so Courtney was there. I had my coworker, shout out to Marina, was there with her husband. It looked like they had a great time.
Yeah, actually my coworker Madeline was there with her husband and a few friends, and it looked like they also had a great time. So
right, would have been nice.
Yeah,
one day I was saying, like, people are like, which one are you going to go to? I'm like, we should really go to the Mexico GP, you and I.
We'd have a great time.
Well, one day we'll figure that out. But, okay, so some track facts we're going to talk about. This is oh god, and I'm so sorry, you guys. So I have an awful French accent. This is the circuit Gilles Villeneuve.
Amazing.
We are on the Notre Dame Island in Montreal. This is an artificial island in the St. Lawrence River. It was built in 10 months from 15 million tons of rock that were excavated for the Montreal Metro Underground Rail back in 1965. That was created for Expo 67, which was to celebrate Canada's centennial.
Oh, geez.
Right?
I didn't know that.
Hence track facts.
Yeah, exactly.
So this circuit was originally named Ile Notre Dame Circuit. So Notre Dame Island Circuit, creative, yes. But it was renamed to the Gilles Villeneuve in 1982 in honor of the namesake. And he is the father of the only Canadian world champion, Jacques Villeneuve. So back in 1982, the circuit was renamed to Gilles Villeneuve following his death earlier in the year, which was during the qualifying of the 1982 Belgian GP. And his son, Jacques, never actually won a race at this circuit. His best result was only a P2 back in his 1996 debut season. So this track is about 4.3 kilometers. Oh God, my voice cracked. This track is 4.3 kilometers long, so 70 laps. Some notable things we can look for when you're watching the race. There's something called the Quebec Wall. It's the outside of the exit of the final chicane before the straight. It says Bienvenue à Quebec. It's also known as the Wall of Champions, and this is because several world champions, Damon Hill, Michael Schumacher, and Jacques Villeneuve, all three hit that wall during the 1999 race. And then in subsequent years, Jenson Button and even Sebastian Vettel have ended up in that wall as well.
Yikes.
Turn 10, notably, is your 180-degree hairpin turn design. That's a full wheel walk there. Your full throttle about 76% of the time on this track. It's a medium downforce setup. And then the wildlife. So we'll talk about groundhogs. It's the classic thing. And even people in the stand, someone was wearing it might have been a beaver, it might have been a groundhog. To be honest, their heads look the same to me.
Also in the edit before the race like kicked off or whatever, they were like, oh, the Canadian Grand Prix, and they were showing highlights from previous years, and it was like Lewis Hamilton celebrating, then a shot of a groundhog, and then Valtteri gets fastest lap, and then the shot of a groundhog. And I'm like, oh no, is this what we're known for? But it makes sense. I understand why.
Apparently. Yeah. So this is the groundhog track. Latifi apparently hit one this year. So he felt bad about it. I'm like, you should. Then 2018, Romain Grosjean hit one too. And the list actually goes on. There's been a few incidents.
That's so sad.
I know. So that was the track itself. Getting into the Canadian GP, talks about this. So it wasn't actually originally held here. It was first held at the Most Sport Park near Toronto back in 1967. Kind of went back and forth with the Mont-Tremblant circuit in Quebec. Due to safety concerns for both, it was moved in 1978 to this island. At this circuit, actually, in 1978, the first winner was Gilles Villeneuve.
Oh.
And he was driving for Ferrari that year. So this track, well, the Canadian GP itself is in contract until, I saw one report that said it was 2024 because it was 10 years from 2014, but people are saying now it's to 2031. Okay. So I put that on f1destinations.com if that is incorrect. The 2011 GP was quote unquote the longest ever F1 race. So I put that in quotes because I'm like, does 2021 Spa beat?
We were so delusionally tired when we were watching Spa because it was so long.
Right.
And nothing happened. That was the thing. Nothing happened.
But so, and also with Spa, it was like what, the 2 laps and it constituted as a full race. This was a full race. The 2011 GP. And like I was not watching F1 at the time, but if you look back at what they say about this race, it was a phenomenal race for Jenson Button. He started last, he ended up second, and just with like a few laps to go, and he ends up passing Seb on the last lap, and he said it was his most remarkable victory ever. So heavy downpour. Okay. Apparently it would be worth watching, but yeah, longest race. So the winners of the Canadian GP, Michael Schumacher and Lewis Hamilton, both tied at 7 wins.
Wow.
Lewis was the last winner here in 2019. We do have some very notable first F1 winners here. So Lewis won his first F1 race in 2007. Robert Kubica won in 2008. And our homeboy Danny Rick won in 2014 for his first F1 win. And fun fact, the 2001 GP was the first time 2 brothers finished 1 and 2. Ralph Schumacher came in 1 and Michael Schumacher came in 2.
Look at that. We have some notable things here. And also, I will say the track is very beautiful. And what I think Miami was trying to go for, because it's on an island, so it's actually surrounded by water, versus Miami having fake water. I'm just saying.
Yikes.
Beautiful track. I made a quick note because Caitlin and I, with all the other tracks, we talk about what's going on in the countries and that's maybe not so good. And actually in the CBC article, I think the reason why we were chosen is because we talked about equity and the importance of that kind of stuff. So this is me being honest about what's going on in Canada. So the not so good things about Canada, we've made headlines and continue to do so over the past and current treatment of Indigenous people in our country. So you've probably seen the headlines, but unmarked graves at former residential schools, the access to clean drinking water on reservations, especially. I will say our current government has made strides in fixing it or repiping places, but it's something that should have been priority number 1. And also, just like the United States has a disproportionate amount of African Americans in the prison system, we actually have a disproportionate amount of Indigenous folks in the prison system. The last note I wanted to mention was just tied to the missing and murdered Indigenous women. It's something that actually has made international headlines, but there was a study released in 2014 from the RCMP. I highly recommend you read it. I'm going to make sure I tag it I've read it actually in 2014, but they basically admitted that the number of missing and murdered Indigenous women that the public knows of is actually way higher than they thought, and it's actually higher than the records that they have. And this comes down to a lack of data collection on the RCMP's part. So if someone looks Aboriginal, they would say yes, or looks Indigenous, they would say sure, but kind of skews the accuracy. But at the end of the day, there's more women that are missing or murdered. And the other note that's been tied to this is that there has been an astounding lack of effort in solving a lot of these cases. So a lot of these women go missing or get found, and that's just it. No one knows what happened to them. So our country, like everybody else is working to try and dismantle these systems so we can get to a better place. And on that sort of heavier note, I don't have a good segue into the next ad whatsoever, but here we go. This episode is brought to you by Park Power, your friendly local utilities provider in Alberta, offering internet, electricity, natural gas with low rates, awesome service, profit sharing with local charities. In Alberta, you get to choose who you buy your internet, electricity, and natural gas from. If you switch providers, nothing changes about the delivery of these utilities to your home or business. If you have an existing contract, you're going to want to find out the terms before leaving. And if you don't, then it's even easier to sign up for Park Power. You, as the consumer, have the choice of who you pay your bills to. Why not choose your local utilities provider? Learn more at parkpower.ca. Okay.
Cool.
Qualifying.
My friend, she wants to say hi to you.
Oh, Clover, I'm going to see you so soon.
I know.
So soon.
Are you excited?
A few weeks. Actually, that'll fly by, I'm sure. Did you happen to watch any of qualifying?
I did, actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did not. So what did you see?
I was mostly, to be honest, I watched the start of the sessions and the end of the sessions. Wasn't really watching much in the middles, but yeah, lots of rain. And I was messaging my coworker Marina to be like, that would not be fun to be in right now.
No, 100%. I could not imagine being in the rain and trying to like drink a beer. Like, how do you have joy?
Everyone has their like ponchos on, all the umbrellas. I'm like, no, this is why I'm not paying to go there.
We do not want to get wet. It's not it. But the rain caused some interesting qualifying. So in Q1, both Seb and Gasly like got the boot, which really surprised me because Gasly had such a strong weekend last weekend. Sebastian had such a strong weekend last weekend. They both did well in free practice.
Yeah.
But unfortunately for both of them, they were out in Q1, which is embarrassing. But to add to the embarrassment is that both Canadian boys, so Lance Stroll and Nicholas Latifi, were also out in Q1.
So to be honest, my grid rival team, Shanka, before I changed it pretty last minute before quali. And I'm glad I did because I was like, oh, Canadian, like I'll do some national pride. Like I'll have both of them on my grid rival team. And so happy I took both of them off.
You took both of them off. Oh my gosh, so smart. I
pulled both of them off. I didn't have enough money for 5 people. So I only have 4 people on my grid rival team this week. I'm like, I'd rather do that than these guys. And yeah, it turned out to be a very fruitful decision. Yeah, was fine with that. And then
I didn't know that we could do that because I also was very low on cash. So I put both all of the Aston Martin team, including them as a constructor, was on my team, which was fine because Fernando Alonso baby came home for me, which was great. But it was it's not good. I did not know that I could just have 4 of them. That would have been a lot better.
I mean, I really buggered because I didn't pick a star driver either. I really messed up this week.
It's okay. It happens. Actually, sorry, this is side tangent, but when I was at that NDP roundtable thing, a woman named Sarah Elder, she runs a company called Madame Premier here. She was actually there. And after the whole thing wrapped, her and I just like talked about Formula One for so long. So here we are talking about policy for our province. And then her and I talked to the side about, she's like, I don't know what it is about Formula One. Like, I just love it. And she told me that during that meeting, her phone went off and it was because of the grid rival notification of like, she needs to fix her teeth.
Nice.
So sorry, just had to mention
It
that.
happens. Yeah. You said Sarah Elder. I was like, oh, our friend Sarah.
No, there's another Sarah Elder.
That's wild.
Also in Q1, back on track here, Yuki Tsunoda was out. In Q2 is where the rain really impacted some people. Alex Albon had a tiny bit of an accident, but not that much damage on his car, versus Checo really hit his car very hard, like straight into the wall.
And there was the scenes of Checo literally like walking through bushes around the track with his suit and his helmet on. And it's like out of context, F1 was everywhere about that.
I know, I saw those photos because I didn't watch qualifying and I was like, where is this man going? Like, he seemed to know where he was going. I just had no idea where he was going. And also during Q2, Norris was complaining about a power unit issue, which became quite evident because he also ended out in Q2. So Albon, Perez, Norris, and Valtteri, and actually Leclerc also ended up out in Q2.
Leclerc didn't do a time, I don't think.
I don't think he put a time in either.
Because he was starting at the back.
You can't, right? Like, what's the point? What's the point of going out in the rain and potentially pulling a Perez?
Damaging the car. Exactly.
Not worth it.
But it's surprising about Valtteri because Guan Yu made it through.
I know. He did so well.
It was a very interesting Q3. So I'm like, look at the people in here. It was fun. Yeah, so pretty much Shanka got the notes right. Q3. The big thing was Max gets pulled.
Yeah.
Alonso gets P2. I don't know. Like, he had great free practices, so I put him on my team too, Shanika.
You did?
I did, and I'm so happy I did. It was between him and Vettel, and whew, I don't know how that would have turned out, but
I had both on my team.
No, Alonso did phenomenal. P2. And then Haas did incredible.
Yeah, they really just, I don't know what happened. I'm like, even with Fernando Alonso, because I know everyone's like, he's old, but he had a flying lap just to be on the road with Max. I don't know. I thought it was insane. And then same with like exactly what you're saying. When I got a text from Adam and he said, oh my God, Haas. And I was just like, what? And yeah, P5, P6 for Haas. And obviously Mick Schumacher, so huge for him.
His highest ever qualifying, which yes, it is. Yes, that is super exciting.
So good.
And like the fact he gets to like kind of do it alongside like Magnus is definitely kind of going to be mentoring Mick. Like,
yeah,
I bet you that's definitely the dynamic. And so like be able to do that and start on the same row on the grid.
100%. So good. It was so good.
The Mercedes boys. They did very good too. Even after Lewis is complaining about like all the purposing.
That's actually something we should have mentioned. So the FIA did put a directive out tied to the porpoising. I don't really understand what the directive was, but to basically force them to set their cars up in a way that it wouldn't be as aggressive. But Lewis was saying, and I don't know if this is accurate because this is what he's saying, and I haven't seen anything else anywhere, but with how, I don't know, the force of him going up and down was like 10 Gs at Baku, which makes sense why he like lost feeling in his legs anyways. But he did really well. Russell kind of like decided to send it, and he was like going to try something and swap to slicks and kind of spun, but it was okay. But it's okay. You know,
he still ended up fine.
Yeah, he ended up in P8, so like a non-issue. I would say this is like a huge win for Zhou, though, like you mentioned.
Yeah, he gets in. He's before Bottas.
Huge. And we know that this poor man has had the worst luck. So for him to finally like qualify a little bit higher, I was like, here we go. Hopefully he just does well. And we'll of course talk about the race.
And Danny Rick, let's mention Danny Rick. Mentioning, I think, I don't know, it might be the first time, it might not be, but he outqualified Norris, and it's not a common thing for that to happen.
Not a common thing. It's not something we experience very often with Danny, which is unfortunate.
And then the one we haven't talked about, Sainz, came in third in quali. It was impressive. So yeah, that's kind of where we were starting. It's kind of embarrassing that Leclerc and Tsunoda actually both were starting back of the grid for penalties, and the two Canadians at the Canadian GP were the only two before that. They were starting 17-18 for their home Grand Prix.
Just not great for Aston Martin because, the final grid looked like Verstappen in P1, Alonso in P2, Carlos Sainz in P3. And I believe, this is like, I'm going to totally misquote this, but I think this is the first time they've had two Spanish drivers in the top 10 ever in the history of Formula One. So
in the
huge.
top 10?
In like qualifying in the top 10. Yeah.
Alonso and Sainz always qualify in the top 10.
For here in Montreal.
In Montreal.
In Montreal.
Gotcha.
Then there's Hamilton in P4. Of course, like we mentioned, Magnussen and Schumacher P5 and 6. Esteban Ocon in P7. George Russell P8. Danny Rick P9. Guan Yu Zhou P10. Outperforming Valtteri Bottas, who's in P11. This is where it gets sad. Alex Albon is in P12. Sergio Perez in P13. Lando Norris P14. Pierre Gasly, God,
your boy.
I don't know what's happening. P15, and then Sebastian Vettel P16, followed by Lance Stroll and Nicholas Latifi, and then the two that had to start at the back because of penalties, Leclerc and Tsunoda. So not great for some folks, but huge win, I would say, for Alonso. It's so exciting to see just like a legend really show that age is nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Give someone a decent car, have some fun weather, and look what you can do.
Kind of like, I was very surprised after that free practice. So I'm like, that's too consistent for him to be that good. He's gonna have a killer weekend.
So you put him on your team.
Yeah.
Nailed it. Yeah, I double starred him because I was like, I think something's gonna happen. But it was just based off of his performance in last week for me. I was like, I feel like he's getting a lot of momentum, which we love to see. Okay, so race day, the actual race. I kind of broke it up into who I thought were the winners of the race and the losers. But which team do you want to talk about first?
Oh, we can talk about the Red Bull.
I know, I feel like that's the easy one.
Yeah.
So first of all, Max called Fernando Alonso old in an interview.
Savage.
I was thinking, okay, turn one, Fernando, you got to get him. And as much as Fernando was like, oh, I'll get him at turn one, like joking around, he was realistic. He said, if we finish 5-6, like that would be a really good result for us in the team. And sure enough, at turn one, Max was far enough away. Like it just did not last for very long. So Max just right off the bat ended up out front and continued out front for forever, basically.
It was it was a Max race.
Yeah, I would say it seemed kind of lonely for him.
Kind of boring for that first position, to be honest.
Yeah, right. Checo also gained at the start, but he was the one that I was most excited for because we know he can work his way up the back of the grid. Like he can do it. If there's anyone who can do it and do it successfully, it's him. And then he gets hit with a freaking DNF. At lap 9. I'm like, what the hell is going on with these cars?
Yeah, that was bad. It was because I didn't know what happened. I was like half drinking beer, half talking, and then I'm like, what happened to Checo? It was transmission issue, they were suspecting.
It was so sad. I think what was great is that he stopped in a really good spot because they were able to like roll his car out really quickly, but it still did trigger a virtual safety car. And I think for him, he's so close to Max in the standings.
No, he's second in the standing.
And to not finish a race actually like will really impact how close he is to his teammate and close to winning the championship. So,
well, let's just start a rumor right now. Jos Verstappen was very unhappy that Sergio won Monaco. Does he have a hand in this?
I love that you're like, let's just start this.
We're not starting rumors here, but I'm just saying, Checo's had the not good luck since Jos Verstappen came out to say that. So all I'm saying is there a correlation? We don't know.
We don't know. And we don't hear much from him afterwards either. So there was an interview with Christian, and he was like, we think it's a gearbox issue. And I'm like, okay, yeah, but you got to figure this out, because we know Mercedes is where they are in the standings. Yes, they're driving a tractor, but it's a very like reliable tractor. It's doing good. And if all these teams want to be competitive, they just need to figure out what's going on with their vehicles, honestly. Towards the end of the race, though, it started to get a little spicy, a little exciting for Max.
It did, and it was because of the safety car. I do actually love the safety car. Starts bunching things up, keeps it exciting.
Yeah. And I also will say, I thought it was so funny when there was a second safety car pulled because of, was it Yuki Tsunoda that went in? I can't remember if it was Mick or Yuki, one of them, Mick. And well, basically everyone went into pit again. And my favorite part was when Lewis went into pit and he had already done a lap or something. And then Max went in after. And then Max came out and Lewis passed him. And for a second, it was like, this is glorious. But of course, actually, sorry, I got that wrong. Lewis hadn't pit yet. He would pit after that. So he just didn't have enough, like anything in his car. So Max did end up passing him again, but it was so funny to hear how angry Max was that he ended up behind Lewis on the radio. I was like, bruh, like you're on fresher tires. I don't think he's gonna fight you if you try to pass him. And also your car is faster, but you could get flashbacks to last year in that one moment where you're like, oh my God.
Just brings it all back. ESPN was right on it with their memes. They're like, what year is it again?
I brought it back for me. I was like, Jesus Christ. Here we are again. He's so mad. Oh God. The only other note I would say is the post-race interview, Max, I didn't see one from Checo. So at least on my end, I don't know what was going on there, but he said it was a lot of fun to be racy with Carlos too, especially towards like the last 10 laps that we saw. And then Christian just noted that the Ferrari is like quite quick in a straight line. That was that. So obviously this is the 6th win for Red Bull, back to back to back to back. They have not done this since the Sebastian Vettel days. So this is huge for them. I think Sebastian Vettel, according to TSN, it was like 8 that he did in a row, or the Red Bull team, sorry, not just Sebastian Vettel. So we'll see who kind of topples this streak that they've got going right now.
Well, that just means like Ferrari, they started off having it all and they've just let it crumble out of their hands.
Yeah, I put them in the winners category, but I actually like, I'm not sure about this. So the race today, Carlos, at the start, he passed Alonso on lap 3. We knew that would happen just in terms of the pace of the car. At some point, because of all the pitting, Carlos was leading the Grand Prix, and I was like, he needs this fucking win. Like, he needs a win. This guy keeps coming in P2.
His highest is a second. He deserves a win.
And I just wanted him to win so badly. And of course, while he's trying to stay out front, Charles is doing a great job. He went so long on the tires, compared to everyone else.
Yep.
And it was a really smart play because they were just trying to game track position and just kind of fuck everything else. Just go long and see how long you can be out there, keep track position as everyone else is going in for 2 pit stops. Like, you'll be fine kind of thing. And it really worked in his favor. The team thought he could finish P4, which didn't happen in the top 4, which didn't happen, unfortunately, but P5, not bad. Very close. But freaking Carlos, man, he gets like, it was just a pit stop. Isn't that what kind of screwed him a little? Like, he needed to swap tires. Mm-hmm. But I was thinking, oh, okay, he's going to be on fresher tires than Max Verstappen and he can catch him. And then he didn't.
Right? I don't know. I don't know.
That
Like
was,
he said,
yeah.
you have it here in his post notes. He tried everything, it just didn't have enough pace. And yeah. Shitty.
Yeah, he said he tried everything, and the commentators were saying he needs to be a bit cleaner on certain exits of corners and stuff. And I was
He's a
like,
very technical driver, so
right. I'm like, I don't think that's it. I just think that the car, he could not get close enough in the DRS range.
that was crazy. He was like within the 0.5, 0.6 at times.
Yeah.
And I'm like, just use it.
Just go faster. We want you to win. So that all was going on in the last 10 laps of the race, which was like super fun and exciting. But yeah, unfortunately, Carlos just came in P2, which, I mean, he didn't seem that hard on himself for the first time ever in the post-race interviews. He was very like, I tried everything, versus he's always like, oh, I could have done better. But this time he's like, no, I literally tried everything. We just didn't have the pace. So yeah, but would you say that they were a winner of this race? I said from like a points perspective, I think this is kind of the best but is this the best though? Because I was trying to think, if Charles Leclerc was in that position, they pit him 10 laps before they have to finish. I think Charles would have maybe gotten it done.
Might have.
Yeah.
But I don't know, right?
It's hard to know.
But are they winners? I think they're winners if you're breaking it up into like a 5 and 5
Yeah.
groupings. But like, were they the winner?
No. We'll put them lower on the list, somewhere in the middle. They're somewhere in the middle. Maybe that's a new category that we need. Also,
I'm learning about clustering in my data analytics course. So their cluster is the lower high cluster.
Also, a team that was on the lower high, I would say, is the freaking Alpine. They got the qualifying, like the P2 that they desperately needed. And we knew he even knew he wouldn't have pace. But I think what sucked is that they had enough for a 5-6 finish. And towards the end of the race, Alonso really started struggling with the car and the engine, or there was some sort of issue that came up, which was shit. I really wanted him to do really well, not just for my rival team.
Yeah, would be nice.
But they didn't finish too far out of their expectation. I just don't know what's going on with the car, and that's not fun. And Esteban Ocon did well. I kind of feel like he's been fairly consistent, but in the post-race interview, Fernando said, like, if they hadn't had the engine problem, P4 or P3 would have been possible. So he felt like they had enough pace, but just the car let them, which puts them again on the lower high end. And then Esteban said, like, okay, like, we're best of the rest. Like, can't really say much about it.
Yeah, I think like when you know the limitations of your car, if that's where you are sitting, then yeah, that's where you want to be. So
exactly. To switch gears a little bit, let's talk about our boys over at Mercedes.
Yeah. Whoa. That's a little bit of a happy surprise for them. I was wearing my Mercedes shirt today.
Oh, I love that. I was so scared though at the beginning that him and K-Meg were going to get into an accident. They were so close. They were literally wheel to wheel. And I'm like, please, for the love of God, like, we cannot do that today. I really think Lewis needs to do well today. But yeah, with that wheel to wheel, K-Meg actually ended up having some damage, and then Russell
having to get, it was a very slow pit to get things changed, and never recovered.
He never recovered. On the other hand, Georgie kind of like went by him fairly easily, putting Mercedes at a 4-5. And this is where like the pit strategy I thought was interesting. So the first safety car that happened with Sergio, a lot of people went into the pits, but they didn't pit George Russell. They kept him out. And then the next safety car that came out, they pit him. And in the post-race interview, I forget who's interviewing him, but she asked him, like, do you think it would have changed anything if you had pit sooner? And he said, like, not really. Like, he probably would have still finished in the P4. So I don't know, something to consider, I guess. But yeah, our boy Lewis Hamilton back on the podium in Montreal.
Yeah, it's like it's a lucky track for him or something.
It was so good to see. And it was also so good to see the Mercedes so pacey. Like, they were still not too far off the leaders.
Well, let's just consider that Mercedes got the most points out of today, I'm pretty sure.
Wait, are you? Yeah, you're right.
It would be close with it'd be close with Ferrari. And because Carlos got fastest lap, didn't he?
He did get fastest lap, yeah, because of how hard he was pushing at the end.
Maybe Ferrari got most points, but let's just consider Mercedes got more than Red.
And they were pacey. It was so freaking good to see, like, that you could see Lewis Hamilton on the back of the Ferrari and not like both of the drivers being in the middle of nowhere, which typically happens with how slow their car is. So I don't know. I was so happy in the post-race interview. Lewis was so happy. I think he's really needed this. I also think he's needed to beat Russell, and I think he's also needed to podium.
Yeah, I think that beating Russell definitely, like, and it shouldn't be that much of a competition, but I think Russell's just, he's become Mr. Consistent, and he stayed consistent. He's still in the top 5 in this race, let's remember.
Yeah, exactly.
And he's always just kind of finishing consistently. Lewis was not consistent at all. So I think that is probably a big part of it too.
Exactly. Lewis was so happy. Everyone was cheering for him when he went up in the post-race interview, which was so great to see. He actually was like, "Hi everyone in Montreal," or something cute like that, because he loves this track. We know this. His first one was in Montreal, so I think there's also some like weird karmic thing about the fact that he finally got on a podium again after like this horrid season, and he just like thanked everyone. And both the interviews I saw, he was like thanking the people back at the factory, thanking the team here, just thanking everyone. And what was interesting is that they finally, because I feel like we haven't heard from Toto.
No, we don't hear from Toto at all anymore.
Yeah, so they finally interviewed Toto because his drivers finally did well enough for an interview. We hear from Christian all the time, but finally from Toto. And first, Toto cracked a joke, and he said, "We need to go into the asphalt business because at the turns in Montreal, they laid down new asphalt, which helps the car, because basically we know the car is super stiff, but this new asphalt makes it easier to manage." So they were doing pretty well going through the turns, which I thought was great. He said they need to start a new asphalt business, like arm up the Mercedes so they can start laying it down everywhere and then hopefully get some pace, which I thought was cheeky and cute. But what I love is that he owns that the car is shitty. He's like, we developed like a really poor car, and like all we're doing is like learning as much as we can and trying to fix it as we go. But he's also very like, I don't know what the car is going to look like next year, because they did ask, like, is the car going to look completely different? He's like, I don't know. Like, we just got to take the data back and figure out what's going to work. And the reason why they need to look at the data is because both drivers were on a completely different setup today. So you can't even be like, oh, okay, this one setup works better, because it might work better for one of them and not so great for the other. But they both did fairly well. So it's like, it's really hard to tell what they need to do. But the good news is that car is censored up forever. So they'll hopefully get the information. But I just thought it was really refreshing. I think when you're a leader of something, having humility is so important. And he just really showed it. He's like, yeah, the car's shit.
Like, honey, he's a Capricorn.
Yeah, which is it's I love earth signs. And then Russell, he said that it was great to see that the car had some pace, but in the final few laps, we actually saw this if you were watching it. He was on the tail of Lewis for a few of the last like 10 laps, but then he dropped off a lot, and he said he couldn't get the tires like firing in the way that he wanted. But he also said he doesn't think anything could have changed his result. So I know obviously Red Bull, huge winner, but I would say Mercedes is a winner too.
This is their best race this year. So that's a big one.
Huge thing. I'm very happy for them. The other team I put in the winners category was Alfa Romeo.
Yeah. After quali. Yeah, they were medium, half and half in quali. Zoo did good. I wouldn't say Botus was phenomenal in quali,
He suffered. He did.
but yeah, during the race, yeah, not bad. Not bad.
Yeah.
They're in the upper middle range of the cluster.
The cluster. Yeah, Guan Yu did really well. He finished in the points. This is his second race where he's finishing in the points this season. They've had such a shit year, like him specifically, just with the amount of DNFs. So I was just happy to have him, like, see him do that. And then for Valtteri, like Caitlin said, his qualifying was not good, but he did a bit of a recovery drive and ended up in the points. So
yeah, no, very good for Alpha, because it was after the last race, Guan Yu went on the radio with another DNF, and he's like, "This needs, like, we need to figure this out. This can't keep happening."
Yeah.
And to then be able to get points at the next race is like, yes. So give me a car I can finish a race with.
Exactly.
Something happen.
Exactly. And they were really quick. Like at the finish line, I think Valtteri was coming up on Fernando Alonso and maybe just ran out of straight, but they were definitely giving the Alpines a bit of the run for the money. It just comes back to the Alpines having car issues, but still, I don't know. I thought it was like fairly impressive, and both of them were happy. Joe said he was just happy to finish a race, which I was like, okay, yeah, fair. And then yeah, Valtteri said he was like very pleased with their recovery drive, and also that both drivers finished the full race in the points. That's all you can hope for. Now we're going to go to the losers. Caitlin, who's your biggest loser of today's race?
Unfortunately, I'm going to go with Haas. Haas for biggest loser.
I agree.
Yikes. They had a lot of potential after that huge quality. And I remember going to bed last night and I'm like, you know what? It would have been amazing to have both these guys on your good rival team, or have Haas as your constructors, because like this is going to get you the points tomorrow. Yeah.
No, absolutely not.
That's very unfortunate. Did you see the picture of Mick's mom going up to hug him after his qualifying yesterday?
Oh, no, I didn't. Let me see that.
It was very cute. So it's just like, oh, it could have been so nice.
But yeah. So as we mentioned, K-Meg, he got damage in that wheel to wheel and then had to get it replaced. But because everyone was so close, he just like ended up.
He dropped to the bottom.
Yeah, there was no way to come back from that. I swear to God. And then Mick was doing so well. And then did the engine die? Yeah, the engine died.
I think so. Something like that. Yeah, it's unnecessary. Why'd that have to happen to Mick? He was doing fine.
And it's people, is it 7 races now into the season or 6? I can't even remember.
Oh, I think I don't know, 7, maybe.
And Mick still doesn't have points. This is
he came so close.
You're right. They are the biggest loser, because this was so devastating. I'm just like, Jesus Christ. What does he need to do to get points in Formula One? This is his second season, right?
Yeah.
And he still doesn't have a freaking point in this sport. Like, oh my God. I had a list of some unremarkable people. So I wouldn't say they're big, losers. I would say like just nothing happened or that was remotely interesting. McLaren, what the hell happened to McLaren today?
Right. It was
the only notable thing that I saw that happened was that they tried to stack pitting both Danny and Norris. And then did you see it?
Norris had to wait for a little bit.
Because Danny's like tire wasn't coming off, and then they finally did it, but then Norris was in place and they had the wrong set of tires on his car. So the left one that came on was the wrong one, so they didn't take that one. It was not good. I would love to be a fly on the wall for the debrief conversation on that, because I don't think people were very happy. I was just confused. The other unremarkable one that I noted was Williams. I said not memorable.
They never. Well, like Alex can pull out a good drive, but
yeah,
that's a lot from asking that of one person brand new to the team. So Honestly, Latifi, it's your home race. Try and do a memorable drive
Yeah,
for a good reason.
Yeah, the most memorable thing Latifi did was hit that gopher. Like,
Gopher, God.
just not good. At points though, Alex was running in the points. So sorry, at points in the race, he was running in the points, which is exciting. But you're right. This team, they need like something to change.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I feel that way about McLaren too. And then the other unremarkable one, Alpha Tauri. I don't know what happened here either.
It started with quali. Like what happened? Quali was trash for Gasly.
Yeah, and Yuki obviously had the
Had to
penalty, so
start
he
at the
was
back, and so it was just, and neither worked their way
like through.
No.
And Yuki ended up out in lap 50. He just kind of overshot a turn and just ended up in the wall, and it caused a safety car. But I wrote here Gasly's nowhere. True. I don't think that we saw him once in the broadcast during the race today. He just didn't get anywhere. It's so sad. He needs points. And the last team, I would say, not unremarkable in any way, but there's some interesting stuff. So Lance Stroll, as we mentioned, he started P17 or P18 and kind of gamed it well. Whatever strategy he was on worked. He ended up finishing in the points. Apparently,
those are his first points of the season, though, right?
I'm fairly certain.
Yep.
But like you said, Caitlin, home Grand Prix, making a bit of an impression, finishing in the points, not the worst thing. But Sebastian Vettel also had the goal of making it up the grid, and he didn't really make it that far.
After, like, honestly, a great free practice, awful quality, unremarkable race. Comments about Alberta.
He just needs something. This team needs something, because I feel like Aston Martin's another team that's really struggled this season. So I don't know. Anyways, the final results: Verstappen P1, Carlos Sainz P2, Lewis Hamilton P3, George Russell P4, Charles Leclerc on his recovery drive in P5, followed by Esteban Ocon and Alonso P6, P7. The Alfa Romeo team, Valtteri Bottas and Guan Yu Zhou, P8 and 9. Lance Stroll rounding out the top 10, getting the only points for Aston Martin today. And then this is where it gets devastating for everybody else. So Danny Rick in P11, Sebastian Vettel P12, Alex Albon P13, Gasly P14, Nicholas Latifi P15, and then I think I fucked up my numbers, but Kevin Magnussen, and then there's 3 DNFs. So the Sergio Perez engine dying, the Schumacher engine dying, and then Yuki Tsunoda getting into a bit of an accident. What are your general thoughts of this race?
I don't know. To be honest, it unmemorable.
Okay, I felt similarly, because there was a point from, I would say, like lap 30 to 46 where I just felt like nothing happened.
There was nothing that like made me want to grab my attention away from Beers and Friends.
Yeah, it was the only like the final 10 laps after that where it was starting to get interesting again. So lap 60 on, or the safety car, sorry, that happened around lap 45. But I found that there was a definite, like, it felt like dead air for a little bit where nothing changed. No one made passes anywhere. Everyone just chilling. And I was like, okay. So I also thought it wasn't that memorable. I think the most memorable part is, Lewis Hamilton finally getting a podium, and then the Fernando Alonso P2 in qualifying. I think that's like the big takeaway. Oh God. Well,
yeah. Well, like, honestly, I think the more and more races we watch, the more and more unremarkable races. Just because, like, especially last year, starting to watch it with the Max and the Lewis battles, like, we saw intense shit.
That's true. That's very, very true.
Right? Like more so
Yeah.
than is normal.
And even, yeah, just not real, it felt like. My other question for you is, do you think Charles still has a chance at the championship? Because right now it feels like it's running away from Ferrari a little bit, in my eyes, at least.
I think he won't catch up for this half of the season. We'll see if Ferrari does something over the break or the summer break, and if they can bring it back after that. Like if the car just not automatically, but miraculously kind of comes back to life, then maybe we'll see him push. But the way it stands right now, Red Bull's running. I want to see Checo beat Max for sure. I don't want to see Max win again.
Me too. I want to see Checo beat Max. Checo, it's all on you, no pressure.
Right. So Anna, do we buy our Mexico GP tickets now?
Okay. When is the Mexico Grand Prix?
October sometime or November. I remember because it was right around the time I was in Mexico last year, and I'm like,
right.
Just have to seriously time it better. So it's vacation 1 week, and then you go to the Mexico GP for.
Can we apply for like media accreditation?
Yeah, let's do it. Why not?
Yeah. What's the worst that happens? They say no. Well, I think that's like it for. Actually, Caitlin. So we head to Silverstone next. Do you have any predictions? Because we did predict Lewis Hamilton would get on the podium on the last episode. We did say he'd get on the podium.
Okay, so what we're saying is true.
We're predicting the future now.
What do we want to say? Let's make his first points in Silverstone.
Make his first points in
Let's do
Silverstone.
it. He came so close. They know
Right.
they're possible. They're within reach. What about you?
I agree with you on that one. It'd be good to have him get his first points. Holy shit. I would say the British boys. Let's see if Lando Norris can do something. I feel like it's been a few weeks of just not being anywhere. So just something interesting from Lando Norris, not an accident, but like some intense driving or something like that. I also am so excited to see the crowds because they have 3 British drivers on the track right now who are all doing very well. Like they're all in good teams, maybe not good cars, but like in good teams. So I'm sure it's going to be absolutely wild. And I also hope Guan Yu Zhou can finish another race.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, another one. Just no more DNFs. That would be nice for Guan Yu. For everybody else, we'll see. But
do you think Red Bull keeps up the 1-2 kind of stuffs? I think so.
I think so too. I would be surprised if they didn't, to be honest, because typically at Silverstone, it's something that I would be like, oh yeah, Lewis Hamilton for sure. But we know they just don't have the car. So, and we don't know what's going on with Ferrari right now. So I do think this is like Max's to win. Do you remember Silverstone last year?
Who can forget? So, but that's the shit I'm talking about, right? Like that is memorable, not for great reasons. So like a race like this where everyone comes out, fine. We won't remember, it won't stick out.
Oh my gosh. I'm also curious. I don't know if you saw this on Twitter at all, but what the next season of Drive to Survive will look like, because apparently there was a huge argument with Mattea and Toto regarding like some regulation changes, and Christian Horner was there and the Netflix crew was there filming. So I'm like, I want to see what's going on.
Ooh, that'd be interesting.
This is something we're looking forward to, but also our predictions for Silverstone. I'm very excited. And yeah, I think that's it. It's not next week though, right? It's Canada Day long weekend for us.
Thank goodness it's not next weekend. It's Brittany's birthday next weekend, so I will not be functioning on Sunday.
Fair enough.
It's beach day though. Should be nice weather, so we're going to beach while we're hungover. That's what I'm looking forward to. That's what I want to see in Vancouver. Over beach days.
Yeah, I think I'm going to bug Courtney to record an episode this week so she can spill all the tea. Like tell us everything, give us all the tips and tricks for Montreal for future folks that want to go. But yeah, I think that's it, folks. You'll hear from us next week. If you haven't yet, follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at Get Checkered. Go subscribe to us on YouTube if you want to see our faces and Caitlin's fabulous hair, which is also just Get Checkered. If you search it, it's there. And
and check out Shanica's interview on CDC,
right. I'll link all the things.
Yeah.
Boost all those numbers, people. Show them that we're the most important people. He interviewed quite a few people in that are interested in Formula One, but gotta be like, she's the best. And I don't know what else. You can email us, getcheckered@gmail.com. You can also go check out our website if you want to. There's some blog posts you can look at, and I think that's it. I think that's everything.
I think so too. For now. We'll see.
Fair enough. That's true. We will see. Okay. Well, yeah.
Until next week. Stay checkered, friends.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.